Hello, my name is Mushtaba Javid. I am the founder and CEO of Clyde Technologies, and today we are joined by Vlad Baranov, my mentor and one of the people who has been helping us a lot in expanding our business and entry to market on the topic of SEO and market validation through SEO.
Thanks for having me, Mujtaba. Sounds like you're doing a one-off specifically for engineers and scientists. I heard there's a definite struggle there.
Yes. Definitely an episode for young entrepreneurs and scientists who are starting up and want to use and get familiar with how they can validate their market through SEO.
Yeah, sounds good. Hope I can be of help.
So you have the most experience between the two of us on SEO and developing your website. Just for our audience to understand, what is SEO briefly, how they can get started with it, why is it important? Do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to say that I'm not a marketer by trade. I'm an engineer, and I founded a few businesses before. See, SEO is something that I've entered more recently, and after a certain depth, I understood how important it is for founders to actually get in touch with this important approach to marketing and validating your product. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. There is a new term on the market too, which we can dive into a little bit later. It's called ICO, which is AI SEO. So you're trying to optimize your chat GPTs to make sure that your website comes up when chat GPT is doing research. But what it is about is the art and science of matching content on your website to the search keywords and streams that users and clients would put into their search bar in order to find the right content. Google and other search engines prioritize the content that is the most relevant for the customer keywords. However, you as a founder need to also understand what keywords they are using. So this way you can position your content on your website for it to be more promoted in the order of the search results.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that in-depth explanation of SEO. Now, tying into our topic of the day, which is market validation through SEO. And we are here today in Rev Ithaca Startup Works the studio. And what I've heard over and over in the cohorts from the mentors, from the speakers, from the instructors is that they want people to reach out to do customer discovery and connect to their market. And one of the ways that they're always encouraged to connect and reach out and validate their hypotheses or understand the pains more, aside from the very obvious interviewing in person and interacting with your end users, is setting up a website and, for example, validating your price by setting up a product page and validating different price points through there by monitoring clicks, interactions, and how many times people, for example, view your product on a specific price point. But I think the question that everyone has is, all right, this sounds very easy, but how do I get started? Or how do I do this? Or more specifically on the topic of SEO, can I even do this on my own? Or do I need to get a help from an expert in SEO?
Yeah. There's a lot of nature for scientists and engineers to try to do everything themselves. One, because they think of themselves being the smartest people on this planet, which is not necessarily false. But each new skill requires a learning curve. So if you do have resources, and that be time or money, I would highly encourage you find the most relevant SEO expert in the market and work with them directly, because that way your speed to the market and speed of you validating your approach with the client base would be much faster than you learning on yourself. Now, if let's say money is not available, but you do have a lot of time and ambition, that is something that you can pick up pretty fast. One of the other benefits of actually doing it yourself is understanding how the market thinks about what product you're offering. Most of you, if you're in science and engineering, are already experts at what you do. And the language that you use to describe the things what you do is very specific to that level of expertise. You're probably no longer using the words which would beginning scientists or engineers would use when describing your craft. Like, look at that thing gets poured into that thing touches another thing. But what I'm here to highlight is that most likely some of the users of your technology will be using basic words when describing the thing that they want to buy when talking to the search engine. Your goal as a founder's entrepreneur is to bridge those keywords that the clients are using to the words which are relevant on your website, on your blog, and also expressed and refined so they define the high level technology that you're trying to offer to the market.
Yeah, 100% agree with the fact that a SEO expert would significantly expedite that entry to market, getting that good bulk of traffic into your website. But also the fact that, yes, a lot of these technical entrepreneurs at the startup are already experts in their field, and the translation of that expertise into their content, into what they publish, would definitely help their market validation and connecting with their market better. So, on that same topic of how we should get it started with SEO and market validation through SEO, how do I even create a website and start making SEO content in there? And I am a software engineer, and as a software engineer with web development background, I see nowadays there are a lot of AI tools, there are a lot of no-code tools out there that give you the capability of creating a full-blown website with good tools to monitor its traffic and optimize it within a week, right? As an example, one of the entrepreneurs here at Revify Startup Works prototyping cohort, um, a couple of weeks ago for one of their sprint reviews, created a full-blown functioning app for an sprint review, all using AI. It was beyond impressive, and it was just done using AI. So nowadays, it's very easy. Any entrepreneur just has to get started, get familiar with one of these tools, and you are able to create a very good website and start optimizing it and putting in SEO content in there. For us at Clyde Technologies, I essentially set up the website with Wix, one of those no-code tools, and it was ready within a week and going. And from there, our focus was to try to understand and validate the pain points of our users and market. And so the articles that we developed and we focused on were based on those pain points that we had in mind and we wanted to validate. And we started posting those and got good enough traffic. In fact, a lot of the beta testing contracts that we got for the specific product cell cut that we were validating pain points for were through these articles being shared in social media, being shared between these experts that were reading our articles. But at the same time, this journey of publishing these articles and reaching out to the market and the clients resulted in an unexpected discovery, which was while we were doing the beta testing, while we were putting these articles out, we realized and we were approached by our customers with the problem of not having a standard operating procedures. So all of a sudden, we had a new market, we had a new pain. And this discovery, the analysis of this discovery, helped us to focus toward a market maybe with a bigger customer base, bigger profits, something that we can focus on and maybe provide a product for, a solution for. And so in order to validate if this issue is as big and as worthy of shifting our focus toward, or at least dedicating some of our focus toward, we started using this pain point in our articles and provide articles with focus on this new pain point. And that was when the traffic for the website blew up, just went crazy. We started getting a lot of traffic, a lot of traction, a lot of people coming in using these resources that we were providing toward that pain point of not having standard operating procedures. And now we had a new market of younger or perhaps not as experienced biomedical researchers or biomedical researchers that are getting familiar with a new assay and they want to be able to get to do it right. And they needed to get standard operating procedures and they needed to be able to design their assays in a reproducible way. And we were providing the solution for that. And as a result, when we saw this, okay, there's this pain, we validated the market. Then, following your advice, we started going into different forums, answering people's questions in regard to this problem with our articles, including Q&A at the end of our articles based on the most common questions that were asked in Google or other forums. And this continued our growth and then led to what we started developing, a proprietary product, Sophie AI, which hopefully will launch later this week or next week. That is essentially the answer to this pain that we found out through this experiment with SEO market validation, right? A lab assistant, PI, a mentor essentially, that is able to develop, analyze, and troubleshoot biomedical assays with you. And so the entirety of what resulted from this experiment with market validation and the new market that we found and the product that resulted from it was through the SEO and market validation that we did in a DIY style. Just us, our team, developing articles, focusing on the right keywords, getting the right content out there to our target clientele through the help of obviously mentors, as well as just researching how we can get this done. I want to now dive more back into the tools that people use. You introduced me to a different number of tools that were useful for tracking emails, how many people open the emails, how many people engage with them, also tracking the traffic, choosing the right keywords. I feel like that's the golden ticket of SEO, which is choosing the right keyword that you can connect to your customers through. And you introduced me to Google Trends to find the right keywords, which keywords are trending, which keywords are people searching for. SEMrush is another example for seeing the amount of traffic, amount of engagement, the value of those keywords, and also comparing your website's traffic to your competitors, finding backlinks, which is another very important part of SEO, and Google Console, which everyone uses to track their traffic. You want to dive more into those tools, how people can use them, how useful they are when it comes to tracking and expanding your engagement with your market.
As far as tooling, absolutely. The first step that is important is to use Google Trends or SEMrush to understand what keywords are being used right now in your area. And it's okay to start with some of the words that you might already know, and you will be able to plug it in, and Google will be able to suggest other nearby words, and you can look up that way. And as Mustafa already mentioned, if you do look at your competitors or related businesses, you can take a look at what keywords they're using in tools like SEMrush. Additional tools from SEMrush or Ahrefs or Moz, and those links will be included below, and I'll just forward them to Mustafa so he can include them. You can also monitor your domain authority score. It's a simulated score. Google has an internal one that the algorithm is not being shared for, but Ahrefs and Moz have a simulated one where you can plug in your domain and know whether or not your domain authority is being throttled. There are occasionally nefarious websites which you'll have to collect and upload to Google Console for disavowal. This way, so that you're not getting put onto any of the negative ranking sites. What else would I say? I think what would also helps once you identify your keywords after you write your blog or after you write content, you can go ahead and ask ChatGPT to plug in some of the keywords or suggestions, replace the words in your content with the keywords, which will help you drive traffic. I would say another one which comes to mind for me is Microsoft Clarity. It's a free platform that tracks mouse movements on the user's website. It helps you understand what is the user's journey once they enter your website. Do they leave right away? Do they get lost somewhere in the middle? Do they not finish article and leave? Do they spend 2 minutes reading the article and leave? And if your call to action, which is the sign up for newsletters at the very bottom of the article, maybe makes sense to bring it up somewhere up top. But those are tools that come to mind when we think about optimizing our web journey.
Great. Yeah. And so following up on this pipeline of SEO for market validation, we went over how to create a website. And then we went over what are the tools for you to use to create SEO content that lets you validate your pain points, validate your market, connect with your market better. And now we want to dive into what are the next steps. What are the next steps after having traffic, traction, connection with your market? And we talked about this very recently, right? When I came to you, I told you your valuable advice through the past few months has resulted in a significant amount of traffic in our website. You told us about what are the next steps, and we obviously implemented those measures into our website because we also want to keep the traffic going for the new product, Sophie AI, which will be launched soon. And so for our listeners now, would you dive more into what are the next steps after you have that traffic and traction?
Sure, sure. And first of all, congratulations on all that traffic. It's definitely hard earned and not very typical of a lot of founders out there. And congrats on the launch of the new product. Excited to try it out myself. And the third, thanks a lot for the kind words. At least I can tell my mother now that I've contributed something to the world of science. She will be very proud. Right. So now we kind of move on to the next stage of the funnel. You have created awareness, you have created an understanding, and you also have executed on the pivot by looking at the data of what was most interesting to the people who were coming to your website. Um, those people become your audience, right? Most of the time when you're interested, when you're writing an article or are you working on a new type of a content, you probably want to inform those individuals like, hey, I have something new. Would you like to check it out? And because they probably are not going to search for that specific article, again, in search engine, it's good to figure out how to do that audience capture. And one of the ways that you can do it is having a basic newsletter list and prompt the traffic people who are coming to your website, suggest them, hey, would you like to sign up for the next article that comes out? And for those who do, will sign up. And thus, you will have a more captive audience for your content that you can form on a regular basis. Why is it important to have a captive audience for your business? One of the main reasons is that now you have a little bit more control over distribution, and also you have a much more measured outcomes of whether or not the things you're trying to sell, the things you're trying to place in the market, do have any resonance. One is because you know people are opening up your newsletter. Two, you know exactly that people are from the market that you wanted to target to because they came to your website and they have signed up for the newsletter. Three, you can offer product to them directly at the discounts at the different price. You'll have a test audience, which is way better than putting the website on the free market, on the free web, and not understanding of the people who are coming to you. So that would be the thing that you would do next if you start establishing great traffic. You establish a call to action, which in this case would be signing up for newsletter. And then you can continue nurturing that audience until they reach either a buying decision or perhaps they refer the content or the product to somebody else outside of the network because they have understood how valuable your content is or how valuable your product is.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to emphasize in this conversation, as we get toward the end of the funnel with getting those right customers signing up, it is very similar to how we talk about markets when people are starting a business with those early adopters, those early or late majorities, and people that eventually have to use the product as it becomes a norm. Keeping those expectations real when it comes to sign up. So, for example, we have about 1,000 monthly users, right? But out of the 1,000 monthly users, and in past 2 weeks that we implemented the sign up for the newsletter pop up, we have gotten maybe 3 or 4 people signing up. So those extreme early adopters, those very innovators that want to try out the latest thing. Those are the people that usually sign up for your product, and you shouldn't expect with 1,000 users monthly that maybe half of them show up. No, it's more like 1 or 2% that sign up and want to hear more and want to follow up on your innovations, your products, your services. And generally speaking, I want to also like now talk more about what you expect from starting with SEO. What is the norm? What is the general timeline for how you grow and how you get traction? We started our website on February. Took us about 4 to 5 months to get into a place that we have the steady, good traffic that we can connect to people and get traction and validation from them, useful data. And that's usually the norm. Although I think it's usually even longer when you're doing it on your own, unless you hit a super niche market, you hit the right target on people's need that is not very well answered. It usually takes even up to a year until you have that good level of traction and traffic. So something to keep in mind for young entrepreneurs that are starting up, that are starting with SEO on their own, to not be discouraged by the slow growth. The work, the hard work, the development eventually comes into play, and you will see the results as you continue doing the SEO and these kind of practices in your website and your content.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we need to continue thinking about as founders is that who is our market? Because the traffic that gets generated from the query, what should I eat for lunch, would be very different than what kind of petri dish should I buy. Probably the inquiries for the lunch, you would get millions, if not billions per day. And for the petri dish, you would get single digits. So in order for the funnel to get saturated, in order to reflect the market size when people are searching for your particular product, will be reflective of whether or not your product is in demand, or even the keywords that you're using to connect to your product in demand might take time. So those searches for petri dishes maybe eventually will get saturated at 6 or 8 months, will help you understand the true market size of the product.
Very, very important point. Very good to keep in mind. And so, as we're getting closer to the end of this episode, let's have a quick rundown of what we discussed, the quick milestones for starting with SEO and market validation through SEO. Very simple. Start with an website. Use one of the AI tools or the no code tools to just have some website running. Start a blog section in that website. Start writing relevant articles to what you want to validate. Make sure those articles are SEO and use the keywords that you researched using Google Trends or SEMrush. If you want, when you write those content, give them to AIs like ChatGPT and your keywords, then have ChatGPT to complete those articles and reform or revise those articles with those keywords so they're optimized. Post those articles 2 times a week and track your traffic through Google Console. Keep them consistent and just be patient. Over 6 to 8 months, maybe a year, you will start seeing valuable traffic. And then the real work starts with keeping in touch and keeping those relevant clientele and traffic in your radar with a newsletter sign up or some sort of form that keeps them in contact with your products, with your services. And extra tips in there when you're writing your articles, aside from SEO optimization, you can add Q&As, relevant questions, and also spend time on understanding what's really your customer base and your market wants to learn and understand. What are the things that they search for? And also another important tip would be backlinks. As Vlad mentioned, authority, getting relevant high authority links from sources that are relevant to your market. For me, for example, as a biotech company, I want to get backlinks from famous biomedical articles in journals, famous biomedical distributors, maybe universities. Those markets are relevant if they source and if they point toward my website, then the authority of my website goes up, and Google has some sort of secret metric for the authority of your website. And if it's higher, you show up higher, and obviously you have more traction and more visibility with your clients. Any last thoughts you want to add, Vlad, to this journey for people who want to get it started? Go tomorrow, start a website, write content, and wait 6 months, a year to get that momentum going for their market validation.
Yeah, I think kind of my closing words would be is one is definitely get started. If you're thinking about getting something out there and waiting for perfection of your content, the perfection of your layout, do not worry about it because your first version of the website will only be seen by a few eyeballs. One thing though I wanted to comment on is that you don't necessarily have to put a website out there and wait for 6 months to a year to wait for those results. You have to regularly, once a week, once a month, whatever your cadence is, to add content for the Google to re-index and reprioritize it for your search engines. But other than that, getting started is the most important first step.
Very important and great closing point. And thank you so much, Vlad, for joining us today and having this great discussion. And my name is Moshtaba Jabit. I am the founder of Clyde Technologies, joined by Vlad Baranov, mentor, experienced entrepreneur, and engineer, and someone who has been helping us a lot. I hope his experience, my little personal experience, was useful to anyone listening to this episode. Be sure to check the linked resources as well as Clyde Technologies' website, clyde.tech, and Vlad Baranov's website for talking to him and using his valuable insight at humaninterfaces.co. Thank you for listening.